Hello, everyone. My name is Rodrigo Garcia. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of NotPla. I'm really happy to be with you and to be able to share, even if it's online, some of the things that we have been working on. I'm going to do with you three things today. First one is to share my story and my experience working on this problem of plastic packaging. Second one is to throw you a challenge. And the third one is to give you some tips that I think will be quite useful to tackle that challenge. So let's go for it. I'm pretty sure all of you are really familiar with these objects. I'm pretty sure you use them. Are plastic packaging. And plastic is this material that is great in many different ways. It can resist quite a lot of different parameters, have really excellent barrier properties. It's an amazing material, really. But I think the main problem with it is that it lasts for so long, which it make it really good. But we use it for certain things that they are a bit nonsense. Like, for example, most of these uses or applications, they will only last in the hands of consumers for a really short period of time. And as well, kind of like to be able to make these objects, you require quite a lot of other resources as well, not only plastic or oil. Like, for example, to make a plastic bottle of 1 liter, you need up to 7 liters of water. Could you imagine, like, using 7 liters of water to make just one bottle? As well, they represent most of the cost of when you buy a product. Like, when you buy a bottle of whatever liquid it is, it's 90% mostly the packaging and only 10% the content. So that's why we started to look a bit why this problem, and it's a kind of new problem because we didn't have this material a few decades ago, so it's relatively new. And at the same time, we were able to live quite well as a society and as a community for many years. And you can see this curve is how the consumption in the US have been rocketing on terms of like consuming plastic bottles. And nowadays we are almost up to 150 liters per person per year, which is quite crazy. And these bottles as well, not too many get recycled. And when they get recycled, it's not that they get recycled into new bottles, it's that they get downcycled into other products with less value. And sadly, they end up in the landfill or in the oceans. This is one of the last trips before lockdown that I did in Africa. And it was really sad to see all this pollution accumulating in the sea and in the beaches. And as well, sometimes that we are not conscious of it, but like, I don't know if you can see in this little video how these plastics break down into small fragments to what is called microplastics, and it's a big issue for quite a lot of the marine life, and that translates quite a lot into other forms and shapes of life. So you can see on this video microplankton eating little polystyrene fragments that they are highlighted in orange or yellow. And yeah, it's a quite crazy video. And then we ask ourselves how it's possible to make packaging without using plastic, and we started to look at nature. Nature is an amazing resource and an amazing inspiration. If you think, for example, in coconuts, you can make packaging that contains a water that is even better than water, because coconut water is really tasty. And that coconut, it's not only something that you can throw and it will regenerate the environment, it's something that it will potentially almost create more coconuts, right? Imagine if you could do that with a bottle. Imagine if you could throw a bottle and a new bottle tree will grow and we'll have new bottles. So I think we have a long way to be able to do that. But at the same time, for example, we had in the past some vessels and some packaging that was quite efficient. This is a botijo. That is where my grandfather used to drink water from. So it's a vessel made out of ceramic, where a lot of people can drink from the same vessel, and you have this ability of cooling down the exterior part of the vessel, because it transfers some of the humidity and some of the water through it, and it evaporates, which is quite intelligent. So that's why we created this this product. We call it O, because it's the name that people give it when they see it for the first time. They make some noise like that, like ooh or oh, what is this? And basically it's a membrane made out of seaweed that can contain liquid, and is biodegradable. It's quite cheap, it's simple, and even if you want, you can eat it. So we have been, again, kind of like coming back to nature, really inspired on how nature encapsulate liquids. And nature normally use membranes because it's the most efficient way to encapsulate any volume, either in a small scale like cells, or a bit bigger like fruits or eggs, or even big things like architecture. So yeah, our membrane is made of seaweed. We use different type of seaweed, but mainly brown seaweed. And this technology is something that like we didn't invent it. It's something that was there for a long time. So it's called, one of the backbones is called espherification, and basically had been used to make things like fake caviar, almost back in the 40s on the last century, and then had been used for many other different uses, like chefs like Ferran Adrià started to use them for really high cuisine experiences, or had been used in a lot of food, like the pimento inside of the olives are made of espherification as well. So there's quite a lot of things that using this, but no one was using it to make packaging. So that's why we started to, somehow to put it on the hands of people and try to see what people were thinking and saying. And the people were starting to say, "Oh, this is really weird. It looks like a jellyfish, or like breast implant, or what is this? And you cannot close it back." And after getting all that feedback, we somehow came back to nature and tried to ask the same questions, like how you can close back an orange. You cannot close back an orange, but like an orange, you can peel it and you have small segments inside. So basically trying to use the same analogy, we started to create products. And one thing, I didn't mention, my background is in architecture, so nothing to do with chemistry. And that actually was quite powerful because we started in a kitchen. We didn't start in a lab. And with tools that everyone could have. And when we started this project, what we did was that we licensed it as Creative Commons. So the idea there is that everyone could do it. So we published a recipe online, and that recipe got a lot of views. I think it got almost 20 million views overnight, which was quite overwhelming for us. And at that point, we were able to start to kind of like got invited to different conference. So we were to, I didn't know that exists at that time, at the World Water Bottle Conference, and everyone was looking at us like the weirdos in the room. And we started to show it to some important people around, and getting some awards for it, and getting some nice support for the project. We didn't win all the awards. You can see my face of disappointment on this picture by clapping to the winner of this big check. But after that, what we were able to do with that money is to put a team of chemists in Imperial College London, that is where we were studying, to look a bit further into the properties of the membrane itself. So we started to do a lot of tests around the membrane, looking it really close. So this is how it looks, quite close. If you look with a microscope, our membranes, and try to understand as well from the seaweed point of view what were the limits. And seaweed is this amazing resource that you don't need farmland, you don't need fertilizer, you don't need to water it. It doesn't compete with other food crops, and it can grow like some of the fastest growing seaweed. It can grow up to 2 meters per day. Imagine something growing that fast. So it's an amazing resource that, as everything that we have as a society and as a planet, we have to know how to handle it well. But we really believe that it could be one of the resources for the future. We started to look as well, as you can see in this video, what will happen if you don't eat an ojo, if you throw it on the environment. And you can see on the right hand side of the screen one of our membranes in normal composting conditions, and they disappear after approximately 10 days. An orange peel will take around a couple of weeks to disappear. Cardboard will take around a month. And other plastics like PLA, that is called biodegradable or compostable plastics, they only biodegrade on industrial composting, which it means that it needs heat and pressure to start to break down, so it will never go away. Same way as a plastic sachet. that you have a lot of like multi-layers there that it will take hundreds and hundreds of years to start to fragment. And then once it fragments, uh, we have this issue as well, as we mentioned, of where this could go. So once we have a bit more developed idea, what we wanted to do is to industrialize this process, and for doing that, we were able to put a little campaign online and get a crowdfunding of equity. So we were able to raise a bit of money, and well, it was quite a lot of money for us, at least at that point, to be able to start to make machinery. Because the machinery had been transforming at the beginning. As I was mentioning, we were doing quite a lot of things by hand and on the kitchen, but early on we started to discover that we might need to do something else. So we started to almost to create sections of the material that we could extrude and pass to another machines a bit closer to how they make sausages, and from that trying to understand what type of products we could do. Instead of ojos, we are making little sausages, and this concept of let's make not a machine that can be quite big, like you need a factory. Let's make something that is a bit smaller, so small businesses can access to it and can have them on place. So that's why we developed this first machinery, quite small, like you can put on a countertop on a kitchen, and the idea is that it's not bigger than a small fridge, and you can produce on site, so you don't need to move in certain conditions the packaging itself. You can move the machine and make the packaging. And this machine has been evolving, and this is one of the latest version. And the idea is that we can make different shapes as well with these machines. So yeah, we started to make these products that they are quite similar, I suppose, to how they drink water as well in quite a lot of parts of the world, where they use these plastic sachets to drink and to nip and sip. And you can use it basically the same way and distribute it in the same way that you will do with fruits. So coming back to the analogy of fruits. And the idea there initially was to start to look on those things where the time of consumption and the time of packaging was not matching at all. Like, for example, in a sport event, there's a lot of people who are going to consume hydration or water or an energy drink in a really short period of time, and then that packaging is going to last on the environment for 700 years. So that's a really good user case for us. So we started in a small scale and testing with small races, and then we will go bigger and bigger and did the half marathon in London. We did then the full marathon in London. You can see here some of the first races that we did with a lot of volunteers, where the runners were getting, in this case, Lucozade, that is a sports drink in UK, ojo, that they could put all in their mouth, and it was amazing how everyone was responding. There was no waste at the end. It was not slippery, and that was a big success. And I think everything kind of like had been taken up a bit from there. It was quite interesting user case, and we did this big marathon. And we were commissioned this last year to make even more units. But then, as you can expect, all these running events have been cancelled or postponed. But we are really looking forward for things after COVID to start to pick up again, to try to see how we can keep doing this, because I think it was making a lot of sense. We were looking on different ways as well to design the product itself and to put different contents, because like you can put any kind of content onto it, from liquids to sauce to anything that you can think of. And a bit based on this, we started to work as well with other companies, like Tropicana is a juice company who asked us in Roland Garros, the tennis tournament, to provide one small orange to everyone who was going there instead of a small plastic glass to sample their product. That was really good. We have been selling in supermarkets as well, healthy juices with short shelf life. We have been integrated into gyms where people could have ojos after a workout from a dispensing machine. And then from there as well, we started to look on different opportunities that it could be this product use, like for example for energy gels, that I think it could be quite useful, or for toiletries in gyms or hotels or certain places where it doesn't make sense to have kind of like a small plastic containers, or sauces for takeaways, where you could have your ketchup, your mayo, your mustard into it, and you can use it on different ways. And basically, a bit on that, had been picking up quite a lot of different user cases, starting with alcoholic shots. We had a bar in London that was quite successful, and a bit on top of that, we did a collaboration with Glenlivet, that is a whiskey brand that was quite viral as well, in terms of like how things were taken from there. So you could see some of the whiskey pots in this video and how people were consuming it. And I think it was a really big hue. I think it was done for the London Cocktail Week. I have a lot of repercussion as well in the US, and a lot of people started to as well make jokes of the different ways that you could consume whiskey, which it was quite exciting as well. But we try a lot of things. From the beginning, this is a picture of quite a long time. We buy just product and organize dinners where we just package them in fruits, basically. Like we asked ourselves, if this was a fruit, which type of fruit will be? And on sauces, things have been taking off quite as well. Together with Just Eat, that is a delivery platform, and Hellmann's, that is a company of sauce. So we have been selling not plastic sachets into their restaurants, and they have been delivering these sachets daily to their customers, and they have been a really good success. In this case, you don't need to eat the seaweed sachet, because it won't be of great taste to have something that is a bit full of ketchup or mayo, but you will discard it as an orange peel. So that was quite good and quite successful. But we understood as well that to have a bit more impact, there was other type of packaging that we were not covering, and they were having quite a lot of negative impact in the environment. For example, working with Just Eat, a delivery platform, they asked us to find an alternative for the plastic containers that they were using. And they were using plastic containers because if they were using cardboard will come with plastic and it will be really hard to separate them. So we started to use seaweed as well to create a coating. So basically a material that you could put into cardboard and could make it waterproof and greaseproof and make boxes with it. So in this case, the product itself is invisible. It's just the film and the thin layer that goes into the cardboard itself and protected from getting the grease and the water from the food into the paper, which will make it quite weak. And this has been really, really good. And we are testing with different restaurants in London and trying to scale up as much as we can production. And for other applications as well, all related with food and this type of a small time frame where things need to be used, but like you don't need a material that can last forever. And we have been working as well quite a lot on films. So basically making material that is made of seaweed as well, but can be used on traditional packaging formats and machinery. So in this case, we just make a roll of material and we can use it for different applications. So this is a little collaboration we did with IKEA to make soluble sachets. So you can kind of like throw them later on your sink and it will solubilize. Or a spaghetti sachet that you can put into your pot and it will have some salt into it. So you don't need to discard the packaging. It will become part of almost your food. Same thing with integrating waste. So in this case, this potato crisp package, we integrated the waste of the skins of the potato, like the pectin and the starch, into the film itself, into the packaging. So it's almost kind of like remaking the skin of the potato into the bag. And we started to look as well into other potential applications like detergent capsules at the moment are made with PBOA films, which come from petrol, and it's a bit unclear in terms of even if they dissolve during the wash, where they become, if it's nanoplastics or what is that. So we have been working on that front, as well with other applications like soluble coffee, or capsules for coffee machines, pasta, as I mentioned, and then a small kind of like what we call a special project. So a small kind of like pearls and for different uses, for soaps, ketchup, with the idea, as I mentioned, that we can become in the future a bit more closer to nature than than to plastic packaging. And we might not have a solution for everything, but we think with the effort of everyone, we could go a bit closer to be a bit less dependent of this amazing material that is plastic, but is wrongly used in many cases. So that's a bit what we had been doing in NotPla. Now I wanted to do two things. One is to throw you a challenge, basically, on how we can make plastic packaging or plastic in general disappear altogether. And basically on that, basically the brief is that probably you know this statistic, but like 2050, the ocean could have more plastic than fish. And basically how we can find new ways to reduce waste in our community and our collective earth. So the why, as I mentioned, is the flow of plastic in our environment has reached a crisis of big proportions, and the evidence is mostly clear in our oceans. So while it might seem impossible to live without it, as a society, we have been living on this planet without plastic for centuries. So how we can eliminate waste and tackle plastic pollution in the world? So I suppose that's the why, that's the challenge. What we ask you to develop is to develop a tool. So it could be a platform, a plan, a strategy, a product that help us to reduce, to reuse, to replace or recycle plastic in your community and in a bigger scale in the world. So again, to develop a tool could be a platform, a plan, a strategy, a product that help us reduce, reuse, replace or recycle plastic in your community and in the world. And how to do that? A few insights. So think a bit about the past, because there were many different systems and products that allow us to transport, sell, and consume products without using plastic. So as I say, like not too many of the solutions that we had in the past were dependent on plastic. So it might be a really great way of starting this challenge. But as well, if we started to think how we can reinvent ourselves, our systems in these modern times, you can get, as I tried to explain, and as we did ourselves as well, nature and nature systems or products that they are an unlimited source of inspiration. So how to create regenerative packaging without any need for plastic. So I suppose you are excited about this challenge. I am, definitely, and let's try to see if we can all together try to tackle it and try to see how we can kind of like work towards it. Besides this, I wanted to share as well in these last few minutes that I have with you a few of the strategies or a few of the attitudes that I think could be really, really helpful for people to work with ideas, and to me have been proving quite helpful. So if you think of an idea as a ball, it could be a ball of water, but it could be imagine a ball of any sport, and the idea is that you need to score this idea, you need to kind of like put it through the net or through the how do you do that? So basically the first thing you need to do with this challenge or with any other challenge is to try to identify where is that idea, right? And how you do that, imagine you are playing a sport, you need to look for that idea, you need to hear where that idea is, where that ball is. And as a second strategy, once you have that idea in your mind or somewhere, you need to make it grow, you need to pass it. And the way to make it grow, to me, is to pass it with people. In that way, like the idea, every time you pass it, it will become a bit bigger. It's a bit the opposite misconception of people who just have an idea and say, oh, I won't tell to anyone because they could steal my idea. And I think from my experience, it's a bit the opposite. If you don't share your idea, it won't grow. And the third tip is to throw that idea quite far, quite early on. Like try to shoot. Don't be afraid to kind of like waste it. Don't be afraid to put it on reality, because I think it's really worth it to shoot as many times as you can, because to score, you will need to shoot. So a few examples of past projects that I did that I think exemplify some of these issues. Like for example, on looking, one of the problems that I saw in my city, in my community, that I didn't like at all, it's cigarette butts. That is something that smells bad, and looks ugly, and it's a bad behavior of people as well to throw it on the streets. And I was making this project of observation of like flowers are something that is super nice and beautiful and smells well. So it's a bit the opposite. How you could benefit a flower from a cigarette butt and put in a specific seed of a specific flower in a filter of a cigarette butt. When it rains, it gets humidity and holds a bit more humidity than normal terrain, and that will germinate a small plant and grow a flower that will change quite a lot the environment. So just a little hint, but in another segment that could change misconception. Again, as well, when you have an idea, I think it's good to pass it. This was a project I did in South America, in Chile. Really simply, like getting plastic bags and with the help of different kids, trying to make balls to play different sports. And this was a really simple idea, but like with the aim of passing it around, like it was able to make balls for different kids in different parts of the world. So this was in Turkey, in a low-income community in Istanbul, and we were doing things as I mentioned, in Chile, in South America, a bit more developed. So it was a llama. You could see the kids really enjoying the llama and the ball that we made for him. So I think that's the power of sharing and the power of passing ideas and receiving ideas and being able to be quite receptive to them. And the last and strategy is this, what I was saying, of not being afraid to shoot quite fast, even if the things are not ready and even if the things fall apart. But like, I think it's essential to go for those errors, to learn and to iterate on the idea itself. So please test your ideas as much as you can. Some example of this, we were doing a project again with plastic in architecture. So basically getting plastic bottles from different cities and trying to build structures out of vacuum. So an amazing process of putting just bottles into bags, sucking the air out of it, and then that become a rigid structure. So it was an amazing thing that we were able to almost shoot from the first prototypes that they were quite small to bigger structures in different cities. So this was in Paris, this was in Poland, and I think the main success of this project, it was not too much on the architecture itself, that at the end of the day it was more a symbol than anything else, but on the process and the ability of people of putting it together, testing, seeing the reality. And I think that's really important, that ideas don't stay just in your heads or in your hands, but that they are shared and tested. And I think that's it from my side, and that's what I wanted to share with you today. And hopefully you can propose something nice for this challenge, because I think we really deserve as a society a different solution that potentially is not plastic, for tackle those type of issues of short time consumption and things that doesn't match the time of the product and the time of the packaging. So here you go. Cheers. Thanks and good luck. Bye.